I've had my Tesla Model Y for nearly 2 years at this point, and overall my experience has been great. I use the car quite a bit myself, but I also rent it out on Turo. Unfortunately, I've had a few unlucky experiences with the car that are no reflection on Tesla, but taught me a lot about dealing with repairs. For one, when I was renting my car out on Turo, a renter was rear-ended. I made a video about that whole repair process and dealing with insurance, but this time around, I got hit. It was the fault of the other driver, but essentially was the same repair as last time, just a bit more intense. It appears I was hit by them a bit faster than my previous Turo renter was. In any case, I finally just got my Model Y back a full 59 days after the accident, so today I'm going to detail the accident, why all of it took so long, and what you may expect going forward, so let's get into it, and a special thanks to Policy Genius for sponsoring this video. My Model Y is overall the same as shipped from Tesla, but I also have full vehicle PPF. This is a paint protective film that protects the car from rock chips and scratches, and now has had to be replaced twice. In the original accident, my Turo renter was rear-ended, able to drive the vehicle back to me, and I took up repairs with the at-fault driver's insurance. That repair was right around $10,000, body only. Then I took it to Detail Union for PPF replacement, and followed up with AAA to have that reimbursed along with loss of income and diminished value. It was a long process, but got resolved and returned my Model Y back to normal. This time I was driving to a gig when traffic suddenly slowed and the driver behind me didn't stop in time at all. It was the same type of accident as the previous one, but this time I was driving, and after being hit, the car wouldn't drive. I was not expecting this, nor was I experienced with it. Unfortunately, I don't have footage of the incident since my Sentry Mode drive was connected to a dock that got dislodged, but I was hit by a Nissan SUV going pretty fast. My percussion bag in the trunk flipped completely over, and the seatbelt held me in place, cinching at the top. Luckily, the accident wasn't hard enough for the airbags to go off, but either way, I was happy to be in the Model Y, rated one of the safest vehicles you could drive. This is the damage from the accident. I took these clips in the carpool lane where we were stuck waiting for highway patrol to come, make a report, and help us get off the freeway. When I got out of the car, I felt fine, but definitely monitored for any soreness over the next couple of days. I had lower back soreness for a couple of days, but that went away, and now 2 months later, I haven't felt anything from it. I did have a seatbelt bruise that healed in about a week. I'm very grateful that the accident didn't cause any true injuries for me that I can tell, or the other driver. Because my car wouldn't drive, I thought this accident may have ended up being a total loss, but ultimately it wasn't. What happened was, when I was hit at that speed, the Pyro fuse blew. This fuse immediately cuts off power to the battery pack, ensuring that there is no power transferring if anything got damaged. The screen was still operating, along with the doors, windows, and music, but I ultimately realized that it was running off of the 12-volt battery. At this point, there was no accessing the battery pack. From the inside, you really couldn't see any damage, but outside it was pretty significant, and the screen gave me every possible alert. I had alerts for the vehicle shutting down, all self-driving features being disabled, safety features being disabled, and more. The real shock was that I couldn't even go into neutral, and I'd love for Tesla to fix that down the road or communicate why I couldn't go into it. When the CHP officer arrived, I tried shifting into drive, reverse, neutral, and even tried tow mode on screen with no luck, meaning that he had to push me off the freeway. We couldn't wait in the carpool lane for a tow truck, so he stopped traffic entirely, pushed my car off the freeway into the right shoulder. My brakes were locked, so my car was screeching across the freeway as he pushed with his cruiser, and I steered. The other driver in the Nissan SUV started up the car and drove right across the freeway, which was frustrating. This is a fairly common accident, so not being able to enable neutral seems pretty crazy to me, but that's something that happened and is something I'm more prepared for in the future. After signing the paperwork, I learned a hard lesson there with roadside assistance. I called AAA first, and after about 50 minutes, they arrived only to tell me that my car would not be able to be towed by them. Since they couldn't put the car into neutral, they would need to use skates, which is something that they will not do on the side of the freeway. Then I called Tesla roadside assistance, who arrived about an hour later after that, and since they are contracted by Tesla, they know what to do in these situations. By the time the second tow truck arrived, my car was completely dead. The 12-volt battery itself had to be jumped by the contracted tow truck driver, and he had to use some creative methods to get the truck up onto the flatbed. Ultimately, I was stuck on the side of the road for about 3 hours, and it taught me that if I'm ever in an accident with a Tesla or EV that isn't a basic towing job, AAA is not the right company to call. For a Tesla, Tesla roadside assistance will always be my first call in the future. We'll get to how the repair went and the timeline breakdown in just a minute. Before we go any further, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Policy Genius. Policy Genius is your one-stop shop to find and buy the insurance you need. If your home and auto insurance policies are up for renewal, Policy Genius can help you look for a lower rate by comparing top insurers, from Progressive to Allstate. Getting started is easy. Click the link in the description below, answer a few questions, and Policy Genius will show you price estimates for policies that fit your search and help you to understand your options. The Policy Genius team can look for ways to save you more money, and they'll switch you to a cheaper rate for free if available. Policy Genius has saved customers an average of $1,250 per year over what they were paying for home and auto insurance. One of the best parts of them is that their team works for you and not the insurance companies. You can trust them to offer unbiased help and advocate for you at every step, getting you the proper coverage you need. They don't add extra fees, don't sell your info to third parties, and have earned thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot. Click the link in the description below or head to policygenius.com/Ryan Shaw and answer a few questions to get free home and auto insurance quotes and see how much you could save. I rode along in the tow truck with my Model Y in the back and headed to All City Collision in Burbank. I had to get to my recording session, so I left and came back to the collision center the next day. What they told me was that despite what I thought about the car possibly being totaled since the battery didn't work at all, it was completely repairable. It was a normal rear ending, and the Pyro fuse is what cut off any power. This is definitely something to note for the future with more EVs. Pyro fuses are common but very essential to prevent fires, and ultimately is what made my car undrivable. One description of a Pyro fuse from a manufacturer of them says, quote, protection from electric shocks and fire by isolating the battery in case of car crashes. So luckily, the most expensive part of the car was fine, the battery. This time around, since I was in a hurry, I filed the claim with my own insurance. I wasn't at fault, so I ultimately will get any deductible reimbursed by the at-fault driver's insurance, and Tesla insurance was already easy to connect with the Tesla-approved collision center I brought the car to. Initially, the repair estimate came out to a whopping $19,779.08. In the breakdown, this estimate shows parts and labor for electrical, wheels, cowl, restraint systems, seats and tracks, roof, pillars, rocker and floor, front door, quarter panel, rear suspension, rear body and floor, liftgate, rear lamps, and rear bumper, of course. The most expensive parts were the quarter panel, liftgate, and rear bumper cover. The craziest part for me personally is that this is the second time these parts have been repaired on this 2020 Model Y. Last time I talked about this accident in a video, the parts had been ordered, and I was given an estimate of around mid-January for the repairs to be completed. The accident took place on December 15th, so that would have been about a month without the car, which isn't too bad for these new cars in such high demand. Ultimately, it took much longer, about a month longer than that, and I picked the car up on February 12th after those repairs. It looks beautiful. It looks as good as new and has PPF on it already. The rear hatch, as well as the back quarter panels and pieces of bumper, all look as good as they did before the crash. Of course, the paint itself looks better as well since it's brand new. With my previous accident, there was a location or two underneath a panel where I noted the paint not being perfect, but this time around I can't find any issues. Everything looks great and the hatch closes better than it did before. There really is nothing on the car that would indicate an accident occurred, and I'm very, very pleased about that. Now that the car is returned, I have my final cost breakdowns as well. A few items of note include the diagnostic unit at $415, the LT seatbelt assembly at $260, door assembly at $120, rear body panel at $365, and lower cover for the rear bumper at $400. This shop also went ahead and took care of the PPF fix for me using their local contracted detail shop in Burbank. Ultimately, that added to the time it was away from me by about a week or two, but made it so that now that the car is returned, it's good to go. I have more work to do with insurance, but I don't have to wait 2 weeks and then take the car into detail union for those PPF fixes again. This is definitely more convenient for me, and the PPF looks great on the body parts that were replaced. Still though, the accident took place on December 15th, and I picked up the vehicle on February 12th. It was available for pickup on the 11th, but that is nearly 2 months and exactly 58 days from the time my accident occurred to the time my Tesla was repaired. That's a significant amount of time to be without a vehicle after getting rear-ended, and not something that many want to sign up for. For me, I was able to drive another vehicle over the past 2 months, but many would be relying on the minimum rental amount from insurance, which ultimately is unfortunate after buying a Tesla. Tesla is significantly backed up with supply and shipping cars in general, so I was curious how much of this process was Tesla or the repair shop. Is 2 months normal, and should it be? Throughout the repair process, I would receive emails from Tesla notifying me of the parts status shipping from them. The emails included shipping dates, ETA, tracking info, and more. Additionally, it shows the order dates, which should allow me to clearly see what the longest part of the process was. Assuming these order dates are correct, and the order dates truly reflect the body shop's order date, it looks like it took them about 20 days to order the initial parts from Tesla. That seems like quite a while, especially when ordering obvious parts for the car like the liftgate, but some diagnostic time, especially overlapping with the holidays, makes sense, and then Tesla shipped the first parts on January 7th. I also have no idea how many cars they had in the shop when I arrived. I called ahead, told them I was coming, and then brought the car without checking if they themselves were backed up. I did see plenty of Teslas there though, and I've heard of even longer waits at other collision centers. The longest wait was for one of the most essential parts, the liftgate. The collision center ordered that part on January 5th, and Tesla shipped it 2 weeks later on the 19th to arrive on the 21st. Ultimately, it's great that some parts arrived early, but it's tough to start repairs truly if you're waiting 2 weeks for the entire rear liftgate to arrive. Some more parts were ordered on January 19th, 21st, and then 24th, with the last part necessary to the repair arriving on February 1st. Overall, it doesn't seem like Tesla was actually too backed up when it came to the parts for this car. From the best I can tell, their longest wait was 2 weeks, which isn't bad all things considered. There are tons of repair and labor charges on the final 6-page document, all calculating to a grand total of $23,614.36. That's an extremely expensive repair, and for many, this worries them a lot. Ultimately though, as long as you have proper insurance coverage, you'll be fine. This is my second collision on this car, and I'm much less concerned about a future collision because I know what to do, and that my car will be returned to the state it was before the accident. Going forward, I still have a couple things to take care of with insurance. Since I went through my own Tesla insurance policy, I paid my $1,000 deductible, and Tesla paid the rest. Ultimately, Tesla will be seeking the full repair compensation from Farmers, the insurance of the driver who hit me, and I will be doing the same for my $1,000 deductible. If this driver hadn't hit me, I would still have my $1,000, so it is Farmers' responsibility to reimburse that for me. Next is loss of income. Not only do I use this car on this channel regularly, but I rent it out on Turo, as I've mentioned. I was hit on December 15th and had a rental scheduled for December 25th through 29th that I promptly had to cancel. For Turo, this hurt me in 2 ways. One is easy to put into numbers, which is the exact amount that rental would have paid that I lost due to the canceled trip as a result of this accident. I will be requesting that, but it also hurt my ratings on Turo, particularly with commitment rating, dropping the percentage of my commitment rate, which pushes me further down in the Turo results. It's also noted in reviews as a canceled trip, which could lead customers away from renting from me. Lastly, there obviously would have been other Turo trips during my 2 months without the vehicle, so I will be finding an average of rentals and earnings from the Model Y and seeking a conservative estimate of what my car would have earned if it was never hit. Next is diminished value. My first accident hurt the resale value of the Model Y quite a bit, but the second hurts it even further. There is a proper calculation of diminished value, and this time around I'm calculating it different in one way. Instead of choosing the NADA clean trade-in value, I'm choosing an average because the first accident has already occurred. The car looks good as new but isn't quote clean anymore. Then I multiply that by the 10% cap multiplier, multiply that by 0.75 for major damage to panels and structure, multiply that by 0.8 for my mileage, and end up with a total of $4,044. This is a standardized calculation to determine how much value my car has lost from being in this accident. I will be seeking this along with loss of income and the reimbursement of my deductible from Farmers. I successfully received diminished value and loss of income last time around with AAA after I pushed back on their initial reservations, so I'm expecting the same this time around. What's funny is that after my second collision, I'm actually less scared about renting my cars on Turo. I'm also less scared of an accident in general. Of course, I want to drive carefully and don't want to ever be in an accident, but I'm less worried about my car because I know that everything can and will be made right. If I was at fault for this accident, I would be out my deductible and wouldn't be receiving loss of income or diminished value, but my car would still look as good as new come 2 months or so. The loss of value for a sale is unfortunate though, especially since the car looks as good as new. One adjustment I'll probably be making in the future is upping the amount my insurance covers for a rental car. My limit was at $45 per day, which is pretty pretty standard, but would not have enabled me to rent any electric car for this full 2-month repair. Overall, with insurance, it's important to remember that laws vary by state and country. What I'm talking about could apply to you, but might have different requirements depending on your particular state's insurance laws. Then with Tesla, it actually seems that I was able to get parts in a decent time window. The collision center did a great job, but did take some time, which could be a result of many different factors. Ultimately, though, I can't complain because my car is as good as new, I'm being reimbursed for my troubles, and neither myself nor the at-fault driver were injured in this accident. Hopefully, this will be the last Tesla collision video I make for a long time coming, so in the meantime, if you want to see the latest Tesla news, you can check out that video linked up here or in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.